Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Nate Bailey and I am working in collaboration with FamilyKind, a nonprofit organization that empowers children, parents, and couples before, during, and after separation or divorce. We are able to bring you this peer-to-peer webinar series for professionals free of charge because of the generosity of our two sponsors, Our Family Wizard and SoberLink. Now, I'm a representative of Our Family Wizard, which is a comprehensive app that enables you to conduct all of your co-parenting communication on a single platform. Powerful tools document your parenting time, reimbursement requests, payments, exchanges, and more. This means less conflict and more energy to focus on your children. Now, SoberLink supports accountability for sobriety and child safety, combining a breathalyzer with facial recognition and wireless connectivity for real-time results and reports. SoberLink's new family assistance program offers alcohol monitoring free of charge to anyone who qualifies. By increasing our total reach in our mission of supporting families affected by alcohol abuse, this program will help continue to reduce litigation and foster peace of mind. Now, today's webinar is entitled Money Talks, Understanding Needs and Guiding Financial Communication. We're going to learn from two experienced professionals today, Sarah Newcomb and Lori Lomler. Sarah Newcomb is a director of behavioral science at Morningstar, Inc., where she works to apply the findings from academic research to practical tools for investors and the advisors who serve them. Her work on the psychology of financial decisions has earned her mentions in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, NerdWallet, and other media. She is a columnist in InvestmentNews and a blogger for PsychologyToday, and author of Loaded: Money, Psychology, and How to Get Ahead Without Leaving Your Values Behind. She lives in Central Maine. Now, Lori Lomler is a financial advisor with Edward Jones, and she understands that finance can be emotional, challenging, and even isolating. Her goal is to provide a judgment-free environment in which she can get to know each client personally, help them understand their relationship with money, articulate their values and goals, and build personalized strategies to navigate their unique situation and reach their goals efficiently. Her passions include developing tax-efficient strategies for businesses and individuals, helping people build financial flexibility to live the lives they want, and helping clients plan intentionally for what is most important to them at all stages of life. She has a master's in business administration and holds FINRA Series 7 and 66 securities registrations. She's a strong advocate for women and local businesses and is an LGBTQ ally. Lori is located in Maine as well, but happily serves clients across the US. So a few housekeeping notes before I pass it on to our presenters. Today, our program will run for 1 hour. Please feel free to send your questions in using the Q&A feature throughout the event, though the chat will also be open for some interactivity throughout the program with our presenters. The questions may get answered as the presentation progresses. Otherwise, we'll take some time at the end. Now it is my pleasure to turn things over to Sarah and Lori.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having us. And thank you for FamilyKind for making this happen and everyone else involved as well. I'm so glad to be able to present with Sarah today. We have known each other for, I don't know how many years now, maybe 10. Yeah. I want to start with some gratitude for Sarah. First, before I get into that, I do want to say we want this to be as interactive as possible. So as Nate mentioned, we'll use the chat. You can use the Q&A to enter questions. We'll also do some poll questions. So I really invite you all to be as engaged as possible and really reflect on your own experiences about money as we proceed. And beyond that, I just want to start with some gratitude for Sarah. In her introduction, Nate mentioned her book Loaded: Money, Psychology, and How to Get Ahead Without Leaving Your Values Behind. And that is the book that started me on the path to becoming a financial advisor. I had always been interested in financial independence, financial flexibility, and freedom, but money was not a topic discussed in my household. And when I started to recognize my interest in a career focused on money, I had some feelings to work out. I thought my peers and my family members might see me as shallow or greedy or maybe not even a good person. So I thought that's really helpful to recognize. You know, it was Sarah's book that helped me realize that I could work through those things, and it was very helpful. So I recommend this book to everyone. I think it will be helpful to you in understanding some of your own perspectives about money and helping your clients as well. I learned early on in my career that many people feel lonely about money. When it comes to looking at your financial picture, it's really, people don't talk about it very much. So it doesn't matter whether you have a lot of money or a little money. A lot of people feel isolated when it comes to talking about money. It's a topic that's surrounded by a lot of judgment, and people worry that they either haven't saved enough, maybe they have too much and they're going to be harshly judged for that. And they just don't know where they stand. You can feel exposed and naked when it comes to talking about this topic. Sarah and I have actually experienced that together as well. Um, so, so it's no wonder that money is cited among top reasons for divorce. Sarah, did you have some divorce statistics?
Yeah, I do. And thank you for such a warm introduction. It's really, it's great to be able to talk about this topic. So talking about money and divorce, we just wanted to give you a little bit of stats to tell you what you already know, which is money is a top reason for divorce. And so there was a Harris poll did a study with Ally Bank in 2018, and they did a study of 1,400, a bit more than 1,400 people, 18 plus, all who were in committed relationships, married or otherwise. And 36% of them that had stress in their relationship cited money as the top reason for stress. And that was the top reason given. So of all the reasons why people get divorced, money is notoriously one of the leading reasons. And communication about money is really difficult. It's difficult to communicate about money with ourselves, let alone with other people. It's difficult to communicate with someone you love about money, let alone someone who you are divorcing. So we'll get into a lot of topics around how to communicate in a more healthy and maybe clear-eyed way about money, and how to help other people communicate about money. But interestingly, younger adults were almost twice as likely to cite money as a top stressor than older adults. This may be correlated with the fact that, you know, as we age, if we are saving, we tend to have more by the time we're older. But that was an interesting statistic on divorce and money. But then also looking at how people arrange their finances, about 40% of couples fully shared income and expenses. From this study, 25% shared expenses. So they were splitting expenses, but not necessarily sharing all their income. 20% were fully separate, just not even any overlap in finances, and 15% had some other arrangement. But so there isn't one way that people manage or should manage their money, but there's certainly any one of these arrangements, and it requires communication. Even fully separating finances requires communication. And then if you're going to be uncoupling finances is another challenge of communication. So we just wanted to sort of couch the topic with some stats. Again, it won't be a surprise to anybody that money and divorce are closely linked.
Yeah, and really just to reinforce the fact that this is not only an issue for people who are going through divorce and separation, it is a challenge for everyone, for most people. So our goal for the rest of our time together today is to introduce a couple of key ideas from financial psychology to help you understand your clients and guide their behavior. And we want to actually do this by helping you understand your relationship with money and guide your own behavior related to money. And we'll explore that through some interactivity throughout the rest of our presentation. We'll walk through a couple of thought exercises that we hope you'll find illuminating and practically applicable when it comes to your work with your clients. So with that, I think we'll launch into some discussion about core beliefs about money.
Yeah, so to start this off, we want to start with a poll question. So thank you. So if you can just choose one of these, and I would say, although lots of you would love to choose the rational bottom option, I'm going to urge people to maybe respond with your gut more than with your head.
All right, we're just allowing a moment to make sure we get
Yeah.
enough responses here. So looks like we've gotten a good response rate. I'll close it and show the results.
All right.
Thank you.
Lots of people saying money's freedom, opportunity. So great. Thank you so much. I've asked this question to hundreds of people over the years, and there are a number of ways that people answer it. This is just a smattering of some of the options, but this gets us at it's a really interesting question because it's a quick way to kind of gut check what some of your core beliefs about money might be. And money is a topic that is incredibly loaded. It's one that we are surrounded by stories and messages about money all through growing up. And we each develop these core beliefs about money that that are often unexamined. And as with anything, an unexamined belief is going to affect you without you realizing it. So one of the first things that we want to do when we're thinking about understanding our relationship with money is start to uncover what are the core beliefs about money that we've internalized and come to shape our perspective of what money is and the role that it can or should play in our lives.
Yeah, can we talk about what some of those money messages are that we hear from an early age, Sarah?
Absolutely. So,
Okay.
And just a little bit about my background that you got a bit from the bio, but really I got into studying money and psychology because I found myself with a degree in math and still not able to get my finances together. And at that point, I realized that there was something other than the numbers that was going on. And it was through uncovering my own beliefs about money that I started to understand that it's the stories that we tell ourselves about money. That's what really affects what we do with our money. And as it turns out, each one of us is, like I said, surrounded by messages about money from childhood on. And that the messages that we each hear depend on the people who raised us and the environment that we're surrounded by. And so we each sort of have this collection of lived experience, this definition of money and its role in our lives that we create based on our lived experiences. But we can really easily forget that it's just a perspective. It's not necessarily truth with a capital T. And so we go out into the world with these beliefs about money as if they were truth with a capital T, and not realizing that our limited perceptions about money and these core beliefs about money are not always serving us the way we want them to.
Right. So if we think about some of the specific money messages, I love how you put in your book, you talk about what those are. Money is the root of all evil. And I'm gonna tell you a few that I remember from the book. If anybody has others that they'd like to add to the chat, feel free to do so. We'd love to hear them. But some common ones that we hear: money is the root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. That meaning it's scarce and hard to come by. Money can't buy happiness. For me, that was the one that spoke to me. I always felt like, when I read Sarah's book, I thought about my own upbringing, and I remember looking back on it, I feel that I wanted to prove that I could live without money from an early age. Because that was the message that I identified with. And I think we choose which messages speak to us, or maybe we don't choose. Whatever messages identify with who we are, that's what we embody without knowing it.
Yeah, for me, the message that my parents gave me without realizing it, and I think unintentionally, was that you either care about people or you care about money. And there was this sort of choose sides, kind of like choose, are you going to the dark side, or are you a good person? And we find this a lot in serving industries, that people are maybe it's because we don't, the service industries and helping industries don't typically pay a lot. So they attract people who are involved in that kind of work for non-financial reasons. But you shouldn't necessarily have to sacrifice being financially stable for doing work that you love and for helping other people. But we often, I know for me, what I was able to uncover in my own situation was that the culture that I had grown up in was anti-money. It was anti-wealth, and there are people I love and respect hugely who have knee-jerk reactions about wealth and money, as if anyone who has wealth or focusing on having or building wealth just makes you a bad person. And that cultural stereotype was something that I had internalized, so that when I decided to study financial planning, like you did, Lori, I had to face some core beliefs about what that meant about me. If I were focusing on financial independence, did that mean I was greedy? If I was focusing on how to make money, did that mean that I'm a bad person? And that's only one perspective. Plenty of people grow up learning money is opportunity, money is freedom, money is the door to, it's the tool that helps you get where you want to go. Not everyone is saddled with negative beliefs about money, but whatever your belief about money is, it's going to affect the way you handle your money. So it's easy to understand, for example, if you have a couple, imagine two people, and one of them believes that money is power and opportunity. And they equate money with power and opportunity. Now, clearly, someone who believes that money is power and opportunity is going to treat their money differently than someone who believes that money is freedom, or let's say opportunity and freedom on one hand, right? Opportunity and freedom versus security and safety. Someone who believes that money is security and safety is more likely to be a saver than someone who believes money is opportunity and freedom. Because on the one hand, security and safety, you're going to want to hold on to money so that it can keep you secure. But if money is freedom and opportunity, then you want to spend that money to express your freedom and take hold of opportunities. So the very two people in a couple, if they have different core beliefs about money, can easily come into conflict with one another about money, where we'll get into this deeper in a bit, but where depending on what you believe about money, the strategies for how you use money in your life will be different. And so then it opens up opportunity for how to communicate about money on a deeper level, rather than what you're doing with your money. Why are you always doing that? Why do you save all the time? Why can't you spend? Why can't you enjoy your life? Or why are you always so throwing money away? Instead of judging one another, you can understand the deeper core beliefs that somebody has, and then it's less surprising why they do what they do with their money.
Right. Yeah. And just kind of to rewind a little bit and summarize that, those money messages and the core beliefs about money, if we can come to a place and help your clients come to a place where they see money as a neutral resource, just a tool, like a hammer. It is not inherently bad or inherently good. Just like with a hammer, you could do something bad with it, but you could do something good with it. It is by itself, it's just a neutral, it's a tool. And that's, I think, a really good starting place for these conversations about money. And then when we look at those conflicting strategies that we'll talk a little bit more about, the need for safety and security, and the need for adventure and excitement, or the belief that that's what money represents. Sarah, I love how you say you cannot both spend and save the same dollars. Yeah. Sounds very basic and simple, but it's a source of conflict.
Right.
So while we can't both spend and save the same dollars, we can find strategies that meet both people's needs, the need for freedom and security and adventure, and freedom and opportunity and adventure, and the need for security.
Right. Well, so you mentioned that, trying to get to a belief that money is a tool, and it is a great place to start. But the thing about financial psychology that I've learned is that you can't start by just saying, well, money is a tool. You just need to see money as a tool. What you have to start with is where people actually are. What do they currently believe about money? And then help shift that from, well, money is hard to come by, or money is corrupting, money is the root of all evil. Any of these adages that we grow up with, you have to understand what's there first and then challenge that belief in order to replace it with one that's more healthy. So it's not like we can just go out and say money is a tool. Just think of money as a tool, because it's like when you have a cup that's already full. You can't, if you put something in, it'll just overflow. You have to empty what's there first. You have to unlearn what you've learned first, and then you can relearn money as a tool. But first, you have to understand, if you think money is power, if you think money is freedom, um, yeah. So I think we've nailed the core beliefs part.
I think
Um,
so.
but when we start think, it is an important first step, because when we start talking about needs and strategies here, all of the needs and strategies that we use to meet our needs are rooted in the strategies that we use to meet our needs are rooted in the core beliefs that we have. And so we have to understand our core beliefs before we can challenge them or change them.
Yeah. So if we start to communicate about what those needs are, rather than fighting about the strategies, that's when we can open up. Both people can start to understand that their needs are a priority, and that the conversation is not about compromising your ability to meet your needs, but it's about finding a strategy that gets everyone's needs met. So now on to tools and strategies to help people understand their core beliefs about money. So do we have another poll question here, Sarah?
We don't. I'm just
Okay.
realizing we probably should have, but
Okay.
we have 3 different thought exercises that you can do with people. And the reason why we put this in terms of thought exercises is, first of all, they're very easy. They're easy to remember, and you can use them in lots of different situations. But when we mention these thought exercises, first of all, you should do them for yourself, because for 2 reasons. One, because you shouldn't ask someone else to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And number 2 is that I think you might find it surprisingly easy and illuminating to answer these questions for yourself, because they seem very, very simple on their face. And they are simple, but they still can help illuminate what you may not have seen before. So the first thought exercise we've already done. The first one is just finish that sentence. Money is blank. Money is power. Money is, stress. What is money? How would you finish that? And in a couple, it's interesting to have both people answer that separately and then come together and talk about their different answers. And that question alone may be enough to spark conversation around the differences in how they view money and its purpose and role in their lives. So money is blank is a great icebreaker to pinpoint where core beliefs might be. What are a couple of the other ones that we've got?
If money, and people can put their answer in the chat.
Oh yeah. This one's one of my favorites. I love this
If
one.
money were a character in your life's movie, would it be a hero or a villain?
Yeah, I love that one.
And then I think, did you have more to add to that one before
Well,
we go
just
on?
that this one is great because it, when you start thinking about your life story and your financial life story, if you start to put, a trickster, I love that one. Nice, right? Yeah, it gives you a chance. I think that by personifying money in this thought exercise, we're able to see how we often have a very complex relationship with money, where it's been there for us at times and at times it's let us down. Has it been a hero? Has it always been there for you? Or has it been a villain? Has it been the barrier to being able to do the things you wanted to do in life? And even understanding, again, with a couple, if you have one where money's always been the hero and the other where money's been a villain, then you can start an interesting conversation about the role that they want money to play in their life, and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, and somebody just typed hero and villain.
Yeah.
It's been both, and I think that's not at all uncommon. I just spoke with someone the other day who said she had a very limiting mindset about money before she got married. She grew up without a lot of money. Her parents always talk, actually, I believe she was raised by a single mom, and she said her mom always expressed that they didn't have money for this or that or the other thing. And her mom didn't value the choice that money brought. She felt proud of choosing to live without it and being able to rise to that challenge. And when she got married to someone who was raised in a family with money, where they did talk about money, she said it opened her mind. Her husband saw money as opportunity. He said there was enough to go around, and that he could choose to use it to benefit his family. And now that's what she does. So I think when we open up these conversations, we help people realize there's more than just the automatic core belief that you may have grown up with and just accepted. See, I'm working this out in my mind. The things you just said, Sarah. So another one that I have listed here is to talk about your earliest money memory. This might be hard to put in the chat because it might be a story, but I would really challenge everybody here today to take some time after this is over to write down your earliest money memory and really reflect on how that might have shaped your current relationship with money. And
another one on that vein that we don't have listed, but that I love, is the first time you became aware that everyone isn't in the same income group. The first time you became aware of class differences, whether you realized that you had more than others around you or the other way around. But when did you first become aware of that? And what was that what was that realization like? For people who grow up with a lot of money, when they're first exposed to people who don't have it, it can be a very, very difficult awakening, very uncomfortable, in the same way that it can be very uncomfortable when you realize that you don't have as much as the people around you. But either way, whichever way up or down the ladder you're looking, suddenly realizing that these differences are real can shake up your perspective in some ways.
Yeah, and I think exploring this can be really helpful to people in recognizing. I lost my train of thought. I'm just going to read the next question.
Yeah, okay.
It keeps coming and going. We'll get back to it. Another one that I really think is helpful to explore is, if I have a lot of money, I am. And it sounds very much like money is, but in fact, I think it really inspires a different exploration. Maybe, and people can put the answers in the chat. I'd love to hear what people have to say about this. If I have a lot of money, I am. So a giver. Yeah, this reminds me what I was going to say before. Successful, crazy, right? I've seen people give away huge inheritances because of their core beliefs about money, because they don't want anything positive to come from the negative experience of losing a loved one, someone who was important to them. And so this is a demonstration of why it's so important to talk about money and to really understand your beliefs about money, because all of the clients that you all are working with may be impacted by their core beliefs about money, and they may sacrifice their own needs in order to appear to embody what is important to them, their core beliefs about money, to look like a good person, be an unselfish, a giving parent. you sacrifice, you give everything away, or you don't work to get the spousal compensation that you should be getting, that you're entitled to, because you don't want to appear shallow. So these core beliefs can really impact a lot of things. If I have a lot of money, I'm free to help others. I'm just going to read it in the chat. I'm able to give more. Yes, it brings choices for you to be able to give to causes that matter to you.
Yeah, I
Not
know
homeless.
I've gone from earlier in my life feeling like if I have a lot of money, I'm selfish, to if I have a lot of money, I'm secure, and just being able to just shifting that was a big change, and has impacts on how I handle money that's in my life.
And so much of this is about mindset. I see somebody said, I can dream bigger. I think that is also really important to touch on. It's important to have the dreams before you have the money. And this could go in a very different direction, but I think it's very important to visualize, what does it look like when your needs are met? And we can talk more about that as we go on. But thank you all for putting your responses in. That's so enriching to our conversation. I really appreciate it. Another one to explore is, if I don't have money, I am. We can feel small, we can feel insignificant, we can feel noble, in fact, if we don't have a lot of money. Proud, hardworking.
Yeah, there are lots. I think there's definitely, we can both demonize and glorify wealth and poverty. And we do a lot of both. There's judgment on both ends. We love to judge. We judge the rich for being rich. We judge the poor for being poor. It's everywhere. There's very little, very few conversations about money that don't have judgment along with them, which is one of the biggest reasons why we don't talk openly about numbers. We'll talk about money in very broad and general terms, but we don't talk specifically about it, which is one of the biggest reasons why people who are mentoring or mediating difficult, divorces and financial shifts probably come into a lot of difficulty, because you have people who, as people, we never learned how to have healthy conversations about money. We didn't learn how to think about money. We didn't learn how to talk about money. We certainly didn't learn how to manage money with other people. And so it's hard enough to have a healthy relationship with money on your own, in your own self. Then you start combining with someone else, and it's really difficult, and the conversations can get really heated really fast. And it definitely comes down to different core beliefs, but then those core beliefs get they find their way into our behavior with money. So our core beliefs affect the things, the strategies that we use our money for, the things we do with our money. And then those strategies, our financial strategies, which are rooted in our core beliefs, the financial strategies often come into conflict with one another. So that's what we wanted to talk about next, is when you've got two or more people, when you have a household that's trying to combine or uncombine finances, you've got two sets of core beliefs, and you've got different strategies for meeting needs. So we wanted to dig into this concept of strategies for meeting needs. And in order to do this, I want to talk a little bit. Is it all right, Lori, if I dive into this next part?
Yeah, I wonder, can we set this up with the needs versus wants?
Yes, that's what I was going to do.
Okay, good.
That's where I was heading.
Okay, good.
So we often hear in financial management, and when someone teaches you how to budget, we often hear this trope: you have to know the difference between a want and a need. And a lot of times when you're working with people and creating budgets and creating spending plans or savings plans, or figuring out how they're going to manage themselves financially on the other side of this relationship transition, this idea of you have to know the difference between a want and a need comes up a lot. And I, as a behavioral psychologist and as a financial psychologist, I really have a problem with this idea between knowing the difference between a want and a need. And the reason is because when we say that, we're generally only saying that the things that are on the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs are the only things that qualify as actual needs. So I've put Maslow's hierarchy of needs here so that we can refresh ourselves a little bit about baseline psychology. Okay, so Psych 101, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Did you note that it's not Maslow's hierarchy of wants? It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because these are all things that humans need in order to feel great about being alive. Yes, the things at the bottom are more easily translated into a need, right? Air, food, shelter, clothing, sleep. These are things that we translate as needs. And everything up above is what we would call a want, according to that wants, needs definition. But Maslow didn't call any of these wants. They're all needs. And if we think about it, it makes sense because yes, we can survive without friendship, recognition, freedom, without manifesting our best self. We can survive without those things, but we're not thriving. Thriving is when all of these needs are met, when you have food, shelter, and clothing, and security, and friendship, and self-esteem, and you're living your best life. That's when you're thriving. So if we budget or if we look at our finances from the perspective that only those things at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy can qualify as needs and everything else is a want, then it's no wonder that we hate budgeting so much, because budgeting is actually a plan for how you're going to deprive yourself of everything on the top of the hierarchy. And
And I
so
think this might be a good place to add, I don't ever feel like I give advice about what should be in your budget. Every time I meet with someone, I ask them to lay out what's their spending, where does their money go? And if they do the exercise, they are just simply informed about where their money goes, or that they don't know where their money's going. And that can be a helpful exercise. I'm not asking them to change anything, but just about every single person that goes through that exercise and analyzes their spending identifies something that they want to change. And it's this, understanding of what needs are they meeting with that spending that helps them figure out how to make those changes that they want to make.
yeah. Well, so let's look at this and think about those core beliefs for a second, right? So if I believe that money is freedom, then which kind of needs might I be trying to meet with money? I might be trying to get some of my esteem needs met with money. If I believe money is power, then maybe, or if I think that money is opportunity, then I might use it to try to meet my self-actualization needs. If I believe money is security, then I'm probably more likely to try to meet my safety needs with money. The reality is that we have financial strategies to meet our needs, but underneath every single strategy is a need, and the needs are needs. They're not wants, they're all needs. So when we talk about you need to know the difference between a want and a need, I think we need to shift our perspective and say, no, you need to know the difference between a need, a deep human need, and a strategy for meeting that need. Because we all need, for example, we all need transportation. But a car, a train, a bike, walking, a bus, 5 different strategies to meet the same need all have very different price tags. But they're all trying to meet the need for transportation. The need is the same. So if you say, well, I can't afford a car, you still need transportation. What's your new strategy? And in the same way, if someone is meeting their need for respect and status and recognition with the things that they buy, if they stop buying those things, they still need respect and status and recognition. They still need to find a new strategy for doing that. And so when it comes to looking at why are people so incredibly emotional around these financial strategies that they have when they're arguing about what to do with money or what not to do with money, it's because they're trying to meet everything we do with our money is an attempt to meet a deep human need. So if we're going to do something different with our money, we have to have a new strategy for how to meet that need. Otherwise, we just end up unhappy, and that's what we fight about. We fight when we're afraid that our needs won't get met, or when we think our needs are not getting met. So when a need is met, we feel positive emotions, no argument happens. When a need is not met, we feel negative emotions, and that's when arguments happen. So when we're starting to think about, when the mediating the different financial strategies of combining or uncombining money, or what do we do with these assets versus these assets, or how do we provide for the kids, going back to the hierarchy of needs and saying these are all needs, we want to come up with a solution where everybody's need for recognition and freedom and connection, everybody's needs are met. Budgeting says physiological needs can be met and nothing else qualifies as a need. But this approach says all of these needs, everybody's needs matter, and all of these needs matter. And we're now in a creative problem-solving exercise to find strategies where everyone's needs get met, so everyone is thriving.
Yeah. Is this a good place for us to bring in the coffee example, Sarah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Before we open up the poll question, should I explain the coffee example?
Yeah, let's explain the coffee example.
Okay.
And I didn't take this, I was supposed to change this so that it doesn't say Starbucks. So I'm sorry, everybody ignore that. We are not saying we're not endorsing Starbucks.
Not good, not bad. No judgment. So an example that Sarah shares in her book, Loaded, I found really, really helpful in understanding this concept of uncovering the need that is at the root of some spending. And the example is, you take a break in the middle of the day to go get coffee. You're going out for coffee, you're spending money, but what need are you meeting? So there's a wide range of needs that you might be meeting with that coffee break. So for example, you might be meeting a need for caffeine, in which case we can explore a different strategy that costs you less. You can make coffee or tea at your office or at your home, and it costs you almost nothing. You might be meeting a need for beauty and fresh air. You might need a break from your desk. You might need some exercise. You might just need a change of scenery. You might actually be seeking social connection or connection with your community. You might desire to support a local business. All of those needs can be met differently than just going, or might have a different strategy than just simply going out for coffee. When you understand the need, you can determine if you're doing what's most effective in meeting it. And I really think that my favorite example is that if you want to go out and have social connection and you want to support a local business, you can do that so much more effectively by meeting friends at the coffee shop. And you might not get the $5 or $6 coffee. You might get the cheapest coffee. It saves you money. You still get the connection, and you brought additional support to that local coffee shop. I love the way that comes together. Sarah, do you have anything to add to the coffee example?
Not to the coffee example. I want to tell the story of the man in the boat.
Okay.
So just to give you an idea of how to work with this concept, I was talking about this. Well, actually, no, wait, no, let's go to poll question number 2. Big typo there. Poll question number 2. What need are you meeting when you take a break from work? And yes, you have to choose one of these 6.
And while people are answering that question, I see somebody put, in mediation, we call the underlying need and interest, and the strategies options. Thank you.
Exactly. And it's the same. This is it's the interest underlying the strategy. Here we're looking for the need underlying the strategy. There is a universal human need underneath each financial strategy. And if you can listen for that need, then when you communicate to a person, when you really get them to identify, yes, this is the need I'm meeting, then they can open themselves up to new strategies because they know there's that feeling of my need will get met. We'll just find a different way to meet it. And finding a different way to meet it with a different price tag. Yeah, food, rest, yeah, novelty. I'm surprised. I'm glad people got what I meant by that. Like sometimes I just need a change of scene. You know, I need to go to a different room. I need to go sit outside, put the sun on my face. Anyway, yeah. So it's the same concept. It's the need underneath the strategy, very similar to that concept in mediation.
So Sarah, I just want to do a quick time check. We're at 1:46. So I want you to have time for your boat guy example.
All right. I want to tell you the story of a man and his wife who had a financial struggle that they got through. He was a financial advisor at a workshop that I did. And I love this experience or this story because it was just such a great illustration of how to create strategies that maximize well-being for all parties involved. So once there was a guy, he had a boat and he loved his boat and he spent a lot of time on his boat, and his boat, when I asked him about the needs that he was meeting by being out on his boat, he lit up and he talked about the sun on his face and the wind in his hair. And you could tell that him being on a boat was one of the greatest joys in his life. Now, having his boat was causing some stress with his wife and some conflict with his wife because she really was feeling like they weren't meeting their savings goals and her need for security was screaming at her. And so she didn't want him spending so much money on the boat because she wanted that same money to get saved so that her need for security could get met. And like Lori said, you can't both spend and save the same dollars. So they had to figure out a way that his need for the wind in his hair and the sun on his face, his need for being out on the boat could get met. So his quality of life didn't drop, but she could also have her need for security met. So what were they going to do? So they spent just literally less than 5 minutes. He sat there with someone sitting next to him, random financial advisors teamed up and talked about this. What were some new strategies now that he knew the need he was trying to meet? What were some new strategies he could maybe employ that would not sabotage her need for security? And at first he thought, well, I could get a smaller boat. That he wasn't really happy about that. Then he had this idea. He realized, look, I know how to sail. I love sailing. Sailing is one of the biggest joys in my life. I could offer sailing lessons to the teenagers at my yacht club. And the money that I'd make from those sailing lessons would offset the cost of my boat. Therefore, I can still save the money that I earn from the lessons, meeting my wife's need for security, and still be able to pay for the boat. And so in addition to being able to have the sun on his face and the wind in his hair, he also got the added bonus of being able to give back to his community and feeling this sense of contribution. And in the end, he was even more excited about this new strategy than he was about his previous strategy, and more needs were getting met. So he wasn't spending more or less, but he was earning a little bit more and meeting her need for her need for security and meeting another need of his for contribution to his community. So I love this because it's a great example of how when we look at it through this lens, yes, it takes a little bit longer because the first thought is always, well, I can cut the expense. But wait a minute, what if there's another way?
Yeah,
there's another path?
Sarah, somebody put into the comments increased income. And I think this really brings up, you don't always have to make do with the resources that you see. Sometimes there are more increased income or other resources to consider. And I think this leads nicely into our next point, which is the example of pandemic life. And that, a lot of parents who have been at home with their kids feel that in order to get something, they have to take it from their partner because all we have is time. And we have so much time at home with our families. And if somebody needs a break, that means they're taking away the opportunity for the other person to get a break. This is probably most relevant for people with young kids, but the point is probably clear enough. And I ran into this with my husband, and we actually took a FamilyKind parenting class to try to get through this challenging situation, and it was so helpful. I recommend it to all. But if we can reframe the conversation of not what do you need me to do for you, but what support do you need? What resources do we have accessible to us that can help us both get our needs met? Mm-hmm. So it takes the burden off of me to meet your needs, and it just reframes the conversation to look outward at all of the resources that we have access to.
Right. I love, like, if you were to say, well, what needs do you have financially, or what do you need, right? The answer can't be, I need you to anything. Like, that doesn't count. Your needs are listed on Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, it wasn't working for us to say, I need you to give me a break.
Right. That's not, no, I need a break. I need rest. Yeah. I need to recharge. That's a real need. I need you to do something. Well, that's a strategy.
Yeah. And in our case, we found that when we looked around, we had friends in our community who were willing and able to safely take care of our kids for short periods of time outdoors. And that helped. And I think there are all kinds of examples that, would be similar in the financial topics that we're looking at. Where are we going next, Sarah?
I think at this point, we can probably wrap up and open up for Q&A.
Okay. Great. Do you have any final comments before we open up for Q&A?
I think just to wrap up everything that we've talked about, the biggest thing that I think we really want people to walk away with is listen for core beliefs, and listen for the needs underneath the strategies. The core beliefs inform the strategies that they inform what needs we think we can meet with money. So they're tied together. But really, when it comes down to working with couples that are either trying to share or separate finances, really learning to listen for the story, listen for the emotions, listen for the need underneath the strategy, and listen for the core beliefs. Because if you can steer the discussion away from the particular strategy, I can't give him the house, he can't have the house, or I must keep the house, I absolutely have to keep my house, right? Well, what is it that you need? Is it that you're looking for a sense of continuity for your children? Is it a sense of stability and security? What's the need that the house is meeting for you? Because once you get to that need, the strategy, again, strategies are flexible and interchangeable. Needs are universal. And so it's training our ears to listen for core beliefs and underlying needs, and then training our conversations to talk, to always, don't argue about strategies, communicate about needs.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good kind of final place for us to add that in guiding these conversations, we've listened for the need, we've listened for the core belief, we've worked to understand the need and build the strategies. Now it's important to always revisit and assess, how are the strategies working? So we choose a strategy to try where everybody's needs get met, and then we revisit. And when we come back together to see how our strategies are working, it's important to communicate effectively and in a positive way that isn't blaming. So I think no one will be surprised at the idea that we will use iMessages. I don't know if people have the ability to raise their hands, but if you can raise your hand if you've ever come in contact with the concept of using iMessages.
Yeah, the
Maybe
raised
Nate can tell us if we've got raised hands. Oh,
yeah, and
my
just seeing,
screen's flashing.
and
I
just
think
seeing
people are
Andrea,
raising their
Andrea
hands.
said, we call that a position. I need the house is a position. So in
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
in a couple, yeah. So it's the underlying need, the interest under the position.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here, where the allegory here is we're looking for the need underneath the strategy. And
Yes.
when you can communicate about needs, you're going to have and communicate in such a way that everyone's needs matter. This is not about compromise where some needs are met at the expense of others. This is about getting everyone's needs met, because those universal human needs can all be met if we're creative with our strategies.
And Andrea, thank you for sharing that vehemently and repeatedly. I think it's so important because you're reinforcing the need to give people language to talk about these things. If we're using I messages, I feel blank when blank, because blank, and I hope blank. When we use that formula, it takes the blame out of these conversations. If we were to say something like, this strategy is threatening my need for security, you spending all the money, the bank account being drained is threatening my need for security. Well, that means we've got to have a pot of money over here that's just for security so I can sleep at night. And that's okay. We can do that. You can spend the rest of the money, right? And then just to I think now I want to stop talking and I want to take questions if people have some. Nate, do you see any questions?
Yes, we do have one here. Where do your services come into the process of mediation? Do you recommend couples meet with a financial advisor before the first mediation session so they know where they're at financially, or only after a few sessions where other topics have been discussed or agreed upon?
That's a fantastic question. I always advocate for meeting with a financial advisor as early as possible. And you can always revisit, but thank you. That's a great question. I think both before and after, all the time. I may sound biased, but I think knowledge is power. And the first thing that I always do with a new client is I work to understand all of this stuff. What's their relationship with money? What do they need from me? And how can we build strategies that get their needs met?
Great. We did get another question earlier. This was back when you asked about money as a hero or villain. Have you noticed different attitudes across cultures, races, or classes?
So there's some research that shows that different attitudes towards specific financial behaviors have been linked with things with demographics. So, for example, geography affects savings attitudes. Not surprising. In America, we're not big savers. In Japan, they're big savers. And so there are some things that are cultural when it comes to attitude towards money. If you, for example, grew up in a household where investing was the norm, was a matter of course, then you're going to have a different attitude toward investment than someone where investing felt foreign and outside of their experience or any of their family's experience. So some of it is just exposure. But we are very much affected by the attitudes and norms of the people around us. And so yes, there are different attitudes toward different financial behaviors based on things like class and even education, but more so than that, it's really about like the specific attitudes of the people around us. And also I should say that even though, you can have two people that grow up in the same family and
That's what I was going to
internalize
say.
really different messages about money. So you can have, and it'll often be extreme responses and very different responses to the same thing. So if you have two siblings that grow up in a family where money is always tight, or where they experience, I'm thinking of a specific family that experienced bankruptcy when the kids were teenagers, just before they went to school. So they then, rather than having school paid for, they then had student loan debt. And the experience of watching their parents go bankrupt in a small business made both kids pretty pretty shy about starting their own entrepreneurial efforts. But one of them sort of took the message of, well, money is here today, gone tomorrow. So you might as well appreciate it while you've got it and turn it into experiences and stuff, right? Became a spender. The other one was like, well, money is here today, gone tomorrow. So I need to hang on to it really tightly, and became a super saver, but to the extreme where there's no amount of money that's going to make them feel safe. And so you can have, with the very same family and the same culture, really different responses depending on how those experiences hit your developing mind and your own unique personality.
Thank you, Sarah. I have that experience in my own family. The 3 siblings, we all brought our own personalities. And so we all exhibit different behaviors when it comes to money. I know we are at 2:01 and I see what looks like a really great question that I haven't read all the way through in the chat. Can we respond to one more?
Certainly, we can take care of this last question. I'll read it out loud. How do you encourage a couple to get a financial advisor if one person in that couple is the moneyed spouse and really resistant? What if their strategy is, I just want to earn enough money to not worry about it, and they do earn enough? Couple is staying together, so it's marital mediation. Solving problems for the marriage does not divide up the resources.
So I think my question would be, so they're staying together. Does one of them feel like their needs are not being met? And would the one who has more control of the money be open to having that conversation in order to meet the need of the other? If the other person feels that they want to be more intentional with money, the answer to this question, I think, depends on the relationship and the goal of meeting with a financial advisor. And in my case, I would say, I mean, maybe every financial advisor is different, but it doesn't cost anything to meet with me. And so is there really any harm in having a conversation with someone who might have something to offer you? I would say no. But there are times when one partner is not willing. And I would also respond to that. The partner who's interested in going to meet with a financial advisor can go on their own. Some couples do plan separately. And so that's an option. And then, but if they go together, they can explore exactly how they want to proceed. And sometimes we open accounts for one client and not the other spouse or partner. So there's a wide variety of options.
Great answer. Thank you again so much for your presentations today. Did either of you have any last remarks you wanted to say?
I would just say, my contact information is right here on the screen. So if anyone has any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Like I said, it doesn't cost anything to meet with me, and I always love these conversations, as you can probably tell. Thank you so much for being here.
Great. Well, thank you so much to the both of you. Again, what an excellent presentation. We hope that everyone here can join us next time on May 17th from 1 to 2 p.m. when we will have 2 mental health professionals presenting on secondary trauma. We hope to see you all there. Thanks again to our sponsors, SoberLink and Our Family Wizard, for making this a thing and possible, and to all of our attendees here for attending today. We hope you have a great afternoon and be well.